Just now, social media feeds and TVs flashed alerts about breaking news. Mike Rowe made hard labor a national obsession. Nobody anticipated what he just stated. Mike has been the face and voice of honesty, truth, and common sense for 2 decades. He has guided others through the most difficult facts and the dirtiest jobs. Today, however, the tale is not about coal miners or sewer inspectors. It concerns Mike specifically. Mike, 62, is at a turning point in his life. The news about him has stunned both friends and critics. The guy who has always extolled the virtues of the American people is propelled into the spotlight by a profoundly personal revelation. After what he stated a minute ago, we might not only have a different perspective on his career, but also the cause he has dedicated his life to. You have to return to Baltimore, Maryland, where Mike Rowe's journey began, to comprehend the current enormous headlines surrounding him. Before Mike became the gruff presenter of Dirty Jobs, he was a young boy who enjoyed telling stories and performing. He wasn't destined to work on television. Actually, his initial passions had nothing to do with climbing into oil rigs or crawling around basements. He did a lot of theater, speech, and singing when he was younger. His innate charm and rich baritone voice started to develop during these exercises. Mike frequently claims that his greatest influence is his grandfather, a talented artisan. As a child, Mike respected his grandfather's quiet dignity and his diligence. Almost anything could be built or fixed by his granddad. While many children aspired to be superheroes or movie stars, Mike believed his granddad was the ideal role model. He was raised to appreciate hard effort, and his success would subsequently be fueled by that appreciation. Mike didn't have a typical path to prominence as most individuals do. After graduating from Towson University with a degree in communication studies, he pursued acting and voice acting. Few people are aware that Mike had operatic training prior to his work on Dirty Jobs. He performed with the Baltimore Opera, using his powerful voice in a way that seemed more appropriate for music halls than the muddy ditches. Nevertheless, despite his talent for the arts, he was drawn to something else that allowed him to interact with everyday people in novel ways. His earliest TV appearances were as a voice actor and in commercials. His rich voice was soon employed to read documentaries, endorse products, and lend authority to a number of television programs. His voice gained a reputation for being loud and powerful. However, Mike's life took a significant turn when he was hired as a host on the home shopping network QVC. Although the role didn't seem particularly thrilling, it did help him become more witty and capable of making things up as they went along. By offering random tools to customers who were having problems falling asleep, he discovered how to keep people interested in any subject. Mike then created a resume that listed his job as a narrator, host, and on-trip show host. Even though he was skilled and endearing on camera, he maintained a strong connection to his Baltimore heritage, his admiration for laborers, and his desire to tell tales that were important. Producers at the Discovery Channel, who were searching for a host for a show that would be unlike anything else on television, were finally drawn to the candor. The program would focus on America's most hazardous, filthy, and underappreciated occupations. Mike broke the pattern, not merely fit it. Unlike many TV personalities, he did not address these employees as an outsider. Rather, he got his hands dirty and helped them with their laborious tasks. Mike was humorous, modest, and sincerely engaged in the difficult tasks he had to perform, such as cleaning shark aquariums, diving into sewage lines, and castrating lambs. By the early 2000s, Dirty Jobs was more than simply a strange documentary series. It was a cultural event, and in the middle of it all was Mike Rowe, a Baltimore youngster who became an expert on the American labor force. Today's headline is particularly potent because of this journey from opera theaters to oil rigs, from QVC to the muddy backroads of America. Mike is more than just a television host. His art has served as a bridge connecting the actual world of labor with the enjoyable world. Supporters can't help but remember the Baltimore child who had lofty goals, but never lost sight of the value of hard effort. His story takes a drastic turn for the worse today. When Dirty Jobs debuted in 2003, no one could have predicted that it would go on to become one of the most significant television programs of its era. At first glance, the concept seems straightforward. A host would traverse the nation and perform some of the most difficult, obscure, and filthy professions in America. But when Mike Rowe took over his show, an extremely odd thing happened. He wasn't only there to share the tale, he threw himself into every task, getting sweaty, muddy, and filthy, among other things. In addition to the startling jobs, Mike's willingness to perform them with humor, humility, and respect for the people who lived such lives on a daily basis immediately captured the attention of the public. From the very first episode, it was evident that this was not a show about ridiculing others. The main goal was to draw attention to those who perform labor that is often overlooked, such as garbage collectors, coal miners, crab fishermen, sewer inspectors, and pig farmers. Despite not receiving much recognition, these individuals kept society running. Mike entered their lives and made them the stars of the show. In a way that no TV program had ever done before, he showed them respect. For 8 seasons, viewers of Mike's show traveled across America on an emotional and intellectual journey. He reminded people of the value of hard effort and showed them what it truly looked like. It wasn't just nasty job. Those tasks were necessary. Without them, the nation would cease to function. When TV was dominated by glitzy star culture, dirty jobs was a welcome change. In their most basic form, they were rough, honest, and human. Mike didn't meet any players at work. They were parents and fathers who lived close by, and their stories resonated with millions of others. The highlight of the show, however, was Mike himself. Even the worst tasks were enjoyable for him because he was so hilarious. Viewers felt as though they were learning alongside him as his narration transformed eerie visuals into poetic tales and demonstrated genuine interest in what he was showcasing. Mike always had more vital things to consider than the danger and grime. Who is involved in this? Why is it important? If no one wants to do it anymore, what will happen? These were not only arbitrary notions. The show continued because of them. They capitalized on the fact that fewer and fewer Americans are engaged in skilled trades, which is an increasing societal concern. The show served as a rallying cry for the importance of hard work. Mike adopted its face and voice. Dirty Jobs wasn't only a lighthearted program, it was a social critique. It reminded people that the nation was founded on sweat, gritted hands, and hard effort. The program attracted a large audience and rose to prominence as one of Discovery Channel's most watched programs. It resulted in infinite repetitions, spin-offs, and specials. Reruns of Dirty Jobs continue to inspire younger viewers who missed the initial season, demonstrating the show's ageless theme. Mike Rowe was not merely a TV show host. He initiated a cultural movement. That's why the major news story of the day appears so significant. When Mike Rowe hits the headlines, it's never just about him. Millions of people identified with his journey through America's worst jobs, which is the subject of the book. Many people believed that Mike Rowe would just vanish into TV history after Dirty Jobs ended, fondly remembered for his days of standing knee-deep in filth and crawling under sewers. But Mike wasn't finished yet. In many ways, Dirty Jobs was only the beginning. The dearth of skilled laborers in America, the pride of manual laborers, and the widening distance between education and practical demands infuriated him. He realized he couldn't simply walk away. His aim was far more significant than TV ratings. In order to encourage skilled trades and provide additional funding for those who choose to study, Mike established the Mike Rowe Works Foundation in 2008. College was once promoted by high schools as the sole path to success. Most people didn't want to hear Mike's words, so he spoke out. These are all critical jobs for America. They are as essential as physicians, lawyers, CEOs, and plumbers. He claimed that a person's work ethic, not the letters that follow their name, demonstrated how much they cared about their employment. Mike didn't think it was necessary to discuss this. It was a directive to take action. The organization has awarded millions of dollars in scholarships, allowing many young people to pursue careers that are typically overlooked by society. Mike made use of his notoriety to share the tales of people who chose trades and managed to lead fulfilling lives without incurring the enormous debt associated with a 4-year degree. He gave speeches in Congress, at universities, and in opinion pieces challenging the status quo in education. He consistently conveyed the same message. Genuine labor is vital, and society cannot function without those who are prepared to put in the necessary effort. Once more, Mike's activism extended beyond scholarships to include storytelling. This time it was through his well-known Facebook series, Returning the Favor, in which he traveled the nation showcasing the incredible things that everyday people were accomplishing in their local communities. The show was modest and humorous, much like Dirty Jobs, but it also had a great admiration for everyday heroes. It was viewed by over 1 million people, and Mike gained not only notoriety as a TV personality, but also as a role model for the hard-working American. Additionally, he entered the digital realm by launching The Way I Heard It, a podcast that is similar to Paul Harvey's well-known radio programs, but takes place in the present. Millions of people admired his ability to use short, incisive stories with many unexpected twists to uncover meaning in the obscure details of history and daily life. Mike never lost his roots, while becoming more important in many areas. He didn't join any particular party or philosophy since he didn't want to get trapped into politics. Instead, he advocated for common-sense solutions and criticized both sides of politics for their disregard for the people who kept the nation running. He was a welcome voice in a world full of spin because he wanted to express his opinions without fear of offending anyone. All of this explains why today's news is so significant. In addition to being a television host, Mike Rowe is viewed by millions of people as a modern-day philosopher for working America, a champion, a teacher, and a storyteller. Not just in Hollywood and on TV networks, every report about him is read around the globe. It is audible at workplaces, schools, workshops, and farms all around the nation. Mike Rowe's position in American society evolved over time. He had evolved beyond the character from dirty jobs. He had transformed into something more, a voice of reason in a nation growing increasingly divided and an unlikely philosopher. While politicians quarreled and the media shouted across ideological lines, Mike created an environment where integrity, modesty, and common sense were still valued. He accomplished this by using simple, universally relatable anecdotes rather than convoluted speeches. Because his Facebook posts were humorous, easy to understand, and able to stand out from the crowd, millions of people shared them. He would utilize commonplace tasks like mending a broken toilet, examining a bird's nest, or recalling a lesson from his grandfather to reflect on more significant topics like work, responsibility, thankfulness, and the true meaning of success. In contrast to the continuous talking heads on TV news, Mike spoke like a neighbor over the fence. His approach wasn't intended to incite resentment or division. It served as a means of restoring common ideals that had gradually faded in contemporary society. He advised them to forget about labels and recognize the good in each other. Additionally, he reminded them of the importance of hard effort. In the turbulent realm of politics, he was seen by many as the calming voice. But he was a target because he didn't fully support any party or cause. Some claimed he was being overly careful when he discussed accepting responsibility for your actions. When he claimed that businesses weren't caring for their employees, several people believed he was being too left. Mike, however, remained largely unchanged. He stated that he would not allow the experts to confine him, and that common sense was not associated with any particular party. This impression was reinforced by his podcast, The Way I Heard It. He told brief but powerful tales with twists and lessons in each episode, leaving viewers with thoughts long after the show ended. It has nothing to do with politics. It was about people without regard to their philosophy or background. People were now being guided through the turbulence of contemporary life by the same deep voice that once read about crab fishermen battling frigid waters. Mike's ability to unite people was even more crucial during times of national tragedy. When unemployment increased, factories shut down, and the pandemic altered the way America operated, Mike was there to remind everyone that the people who worked on the front lines, the truckers, nurses, electricians, and farmers, were the true backbone of the nation. Since his postings and discussions were founded on honesty rather than ambition, they were considered seriously throughout those years. He was trusted not because he was well-liked, but because he had put in a lot of effort by carrying rubbish, murdering pigs with actual workers, and crawling under sewers. He was unique due to his notoriety, and his words now have an impact that goes well beyond the television industry. People didn't trust him because of his fame or looks. Mike Rowe distinguished out as a voice that people still trusted during a period when many had lost faith in politics, the media, and institutions. This is why his recent announcement was so devastating. Considering that Americans listen to Mike Rowe when he speaks, they know he has always been honest, even when it was difficult, not because they have to. Despite all of his success and influence, Mike Rowe has experienced some difficult periods in his life. His cool, collected voice of reason is respected by his fans, but beneath it lie rumors of hardships, failures, and surprising detours that have shaped him into the man he is today. Because of his prominence, he had a stage, but he was also under continual surveillance. To discover flaws in his reputation, critics have examined every statement he has made, every viewpoint he has held, and every personal decision he has made. Mike has always been modest, yet he has said that he sometimes feels overwhelmed by requests. Over the years, rumors have circulated regarding his health, with many speculating as to whether the strain of working on dirty jobs and all of his other endeavors had caused him any harm. There were consequences to using hazardous machinery, crawling through poisonous sewers, and placing himself in perilous circumstances for TV pleasure. He has been very forthcoming about his back discomfort and how exhausted he was after lengthy filming days. However, he rarely complained. Rather, he decided to discuss how much heavier the workers he observed were. In addition to the physical harm, Mike also had to cope with the pressures of fame. His honesty was admired by many, although occasionally it led to conflict. A single Facebook post may spark a debate, with people on both sides modifying his remarks to suit their own agendas. It was distressing to see his message entangled in political disputes as someone who preferred to avoid politics. Then there were the financial issues. Mike frequently reminded people that his money was not nearly as great as the tabloids said, despite the belief that a successful TV job would bring infinite wealth. Even at personal expense, a large portion of his income was used for his advocacy and charitable endeavors. Unlike celebrities who made their fortunes off endorsements, Mike frequently declined possibilities that didn't seem to align with his mission. For him, it was more significant than earning money. However, sometimes being honest meant sacrificing things. Additionally, he didn't communicate much about his personal troubles. His decision to live a more secluded life without marriage or children sparked interest in interviews and gossip stories. Mike would frequently joke that he was too busy, or that his work had become his family in order to respond. Although he chose to spend time alone, close friends told him that it occasionally depressed him. He felt alone since he had so much responsibility on his own, but it wasn't true loneliness. Even when people said Mike was struggling, he always managed to catch them off guard. His return with a new project, a new perspective, or an unexpected tale surprised fans who had assumed he would take a sabbatical from the media. Whether it was launching Returning the Favor, expanding his charity, or reaching new heights with his podcast, Mike was constantly evolving. He demonstrated that he was strong himself, in addition to admiring others who were strong. This is why today's news feels so depressing. Mike Rowe has long been the subject of private speculation on his issues, but he recently made a public statement that surprised many, a fact that ends years of speculation, dispels doubts about his future, and prepares the way for what may be the most thrilling period of his career. Then it happened. Mike Rowe made a shocking news a short while ago that rattled the entire company, frightened associates, and surprised fans. In order to address issues that could no longer be concealed in a well-crafted but sentimental statement, he announced that he would be taking a vacation from much of his public activities. For years, people had been speculating about his health, future, and the effects of his hectic schedule. Mike demonstrated today what many others believed but were hesitant to express. Decades of working in hazardous environments and under constant stress have now caught up with him. Although he didn't elaborate, Mike claimed that doctors had forcefully advised him to slow down and prioritize his health over his never-ending objective. He had climbed through sewage and coal dust all his life, smiling. It hit him square in the gut to hear him declare that he was weak. But health wasn't the only factor. Mike added that his emotions had suffered as a result of working as an advocate alone for so long. He discussed the pressure to be wise all the time, and the importance of reason in a world that is losing its sense of logic. As he watched institutions disregard the skilled workers he had battled so hard to defend, he said there were moments when he felt like he was shouting into thin air, attempting to remind the nation of its ideals. Millions of followers were stunned when he announced that his cherished charity, Mike Rowe Works, would be changing its course. He claimed that although it wouldn't go away, control would be transferred to others, allowing him to take a break and concentrate on his personal life. For a nonprofit that had awarded numerous scholarships and transformed the conversation around employment in the United States, this shift signaled the end of an era. The announcement was intended to signify a shift that was about to occur rather than a farewell. People would still be able to hear him, Mike remarked, whether through his program, sporadic projects, or less frequently. But he was honest. He was unable to continue in the same manner and at the same pace without endangering his profession and health. It was both a pledge to defend oneself and an admission of weakness. Fans were taken aback. Many believed that Mike was immune to harm and unaffected by the pressures of celebrity or the dangers of the workplace. It was startling to hear him admit that he was weak, human, and in need of rest because it was so candid. But being Mike, he had a humorous conclusion. He was frequently told that dirty jobs was never a love letter to him, but rather to work. The workers would continue, the jobs would remain open, and America's backbone would not shatter because one guy retreated. However, despite the hilarity, it was obvious what was happening. For Mike Rowe, the new season began today. At last, he prioritized himself. Mike Rowe's news sparked immediate and powerful reactions from the public. Social media was flooded with people expressing their emotions as soon as he uttered it. Those who had followed him since the start of Dirty Jobs were shocked, grateful, and sad. For many, Mike had been more than just a TV personality. He had been a voice that strengthened their fights and a guide from a distance. Truck drivers said that his broadcast provided them company on lonely evenings and that they listened to it on long rides. Mike was not just on television. Farmers, electricians, welders, and mechanics all talked about watching Dirty Jobs with their children and being proud to say, "That's what Dad does for a living." He demonstrated the significance of their actions. Others who had previously worked on or appeared on Dirty Jobs also contributed, sharing old photos, sharing behind-the-scenes tales, and expressing gratitude to Mike for bringing their work to the public's attention. An Alaskan crab hunter wrote, "Without Mike, no one could have ever comprehended what we endure out here. I will always remember his concern for America." Mike Rowe was more than just a TV host. He was the working-class intellectual of America. His words were more important than most politicians, and people trust him more than they trust leaders these days. At his departure, producers talked about how it was the end of an era in reality TV, when viewers were interested in real work rather than staged drama. The business world was also rocked. TV executives who once didn't think a show about sewage pipes and garbage men could do well now agree that Mike had changed the way stories are told forever. His unique blend of humor, humility, and honesty had set a standard that was nearly impossible to replicate. However, not all of the comments were sentimental. One commentator stated, "If Mike Rowe can't keep this fight going, then maybe the rest of us need to wake up and take his place." Others argued that his departure demonstrated a larger issue, the nation's ongoing disrespect for skilled crafts. The skills shortage isn't going to go away, and losing his makes it worse. People in the business world even paid attention. Companies that had worked with Mike on advocacy projects were scrambling to figure out what his absence might mean for their own efforts. There was new uncertainty for foundations that had depended on his fame to get people to know about scholarships and job training. At the same time, regular Americans kept flooding his venues with support. A lot of messages of support came in. "Mike, take care of yourself." Even celebrities joined in, saying, "You've taken care of us long enough. We'll carry the torch. You've already lit the way." He was hailed as one of the most genuine TV guests ever by actors, artists, and other hosts. Seeing millions of people rush to his aid was fitting and beautiful because he had dedicated his entire life to helping others. Nevertheless, a question lingered above all the gratitude and admiration. What comes next? One thing is undeniable. Despite the fact that the shocking news of today has subsided, in the US, Mike Rowe has already created history. He left behind more than a charity or a television program. The millions of people he impacted, the hours he worked, and the conversations he sparked about the value of hard work are testaments to it. When Dirty Jobs video are screened in classrooms to teach pupils that every job has importance, Mike's words will continue to be heard long after the cameras have stopped filming. In workshops where apprentices are receiving tools made possible by grants named after him, it will be heard. It will resonate in homes where people recall seeing him crawl through filth and smile on television, demonstrating that even in the worst environments, respect and fun can coexist. It is the passing of the torch, not the end, when he relinquishes the lead. Mike was the sole well-liked advocate for skilled crafts in the US for a long time. He started a fight while he was away, and now others, teachers, legislators, parents, and employees, are being pushed to continue it. Since it helped the entire nation realize that one man cannot accomplish this task alone, it may have been his most significant contribution. Despite taking a step back, Mike has vowed that he will not disappear. His show will probably continue. He will continue to express his strange opinions, and his humor will undoubtedly be seen by others, but he is free of the chaos, demands, and unending pressure. Mike Rowe's final lesson is that even the strongest people need to know when to trust that their labor is done, when to listen to their body, and when to relax. Fans will continue his message because it has become a part of them, even though they may miss having him around every day. He demonstrated to the nation that tenacity, not beauty, is what earns respect, that hard effort is still vital, and that doing filthy job is not a sign of weakness. He depicted Americans who have been working in the background for many years. As a result, he became one of the most trusted individuals in his age group. Even though Mike Rowe is going on to a more tranquil life, his influence endures. A history of integrity, humor, strength, and, above all, respect for the people who keep the world turning, one mess at a time.